source of protein in plant-based fake meats comes from plants. Okay, duh. But I bring that up because someone needs to grow those plants. This PURIS facility here in Dawson can process 20,000 metric tons of pea protein a year, but they need farmers to grow the PURIS-bred yellow field pea to process. Luke Peterson runs A-Frame Farm with his family.
Smell that baby once.
That smells like sunflower.
It smells like a sunflower, doesn't it?
They're an organic grain and livestock operation right in the shadow of PURIS's Dawson plant.
When PURIS moved into town originally, my first thought was, great, I'm going to have a processing facility to bring peas to 3 miles from town. I think a lot of farmers thought the same.
I did too, with PURIS so close, like right there. What a great opportunity for farmers in southwest Minnesota to introduce a new crop to their rotation. But has that happened? Is southwest Minnesota becoming the new pea belt?
Our farm's been here since 1893. I'm 5th generation, and I've been farming with my dad since 2009.
Conventional farmers like Riley Beta see peas as a chance to bring crop diversity to their farms. More diversity means healthier soil and less money spent on fertilizers.
We were growing mainly wheat and canola and some soybeans. So we farm 1,000 acres roughly of peas every year.
Okay, so first of all, can you describe the strategy of walking in this field that's very hard to walk in?
So these are going to be the tendrils. So
yeah.
Basically what happens is they're binding together. So when you're walking in, you definitely want to use high knees.
High knees or some kind of hovercraft if you're under 5'3" like me and find yourself walking through a pea field in North Dakota. Turns out there's no pea belt or hardly any growing of peas in southwest Minnesota. This year, PURIS had a strong grower footprint in Montana and the Dakotas. In northeast North Dakota, 342 miles from Dawson, the Betas have been growing peas since 2020 on their farm in Langdon.
Peas honestly work pretty good in our soil conditions on our farm.
You know, we're very fortunate that a lot of growers that we work with are very forward thinking, and they're looking at the ability to add diversity, crop diversity, add productivity to their soil.
Brent Reck is a procurement manager at PURIS, aka he recruits pea growers and is the main point of contact for farmers across the U.S. How many miles would you say you put on your car in a summer?
Somewhere probably around 60 to 70,000 miles a year.
Not a lot.
I work fairly closely both with our plants as far as what that demand planning is for what we will need for raw product inbound throughout a whole year. I'm working at the same time with growers throughout the U.S. on contracting their acres, what that crop planning is going to be for that next spring, so then that way we can match up what our demand is with what our future supply will be.
The Betas have a full production Act of God contract with PURIS. This means no matter how much pea yield they have, PURIS will buy it all. And if there's a weather-related disaster that impacts planting or harvesting, they're not penalized for yield they don't have.
When I work directly with our growers, it's not about working with a grower for 1 year. It's about being able to work with a grower year after year.
Brent has worked with the Betas for 4 years, and over the course of Riley's 14 years of farming, he's noticed other farmers thinking about diversity too.
Sunflowers coming back into rotations quite a bit, and then there's substantially more peas growing in the area. Corn is moving its way up here.
Okay, corn. Let's talk about corn. I can tell you all about it.
There's about 85 to 90 million acres of corn and soy grown in the United States. There's about 1 million acres of peas.
Why does the U.S. have so much corn and so few peas?
It has been record corn and soy years, so we've been primarily seeing interest in places where people can't grow corn and soy.
It's starting to become clear why the summertime landscape in southwest Minnesota is field after field of corn and soybeans, and practically only corn and soybeans. It's all about the market.
If I want to do a specialty crop, right, and there's no market for it, I have to essentially create a market. There's huge markets everywhere for corn and soybeans. I could take there's 2 spots in every town I can deliver my corn and soybeans almost.
The reason why farmers talk about corn and soybeans often in the same breath is because they rotate well together. Corn needs a lot of nitrogen to grow, and soybeans put nitrogen back into the ground. But two crops does not a diverse farming operation make, and our ag system doesn't really support diversity.
We'd love to be on a wheat rotation because that helps with weed control, that helps with soil-based diseases, that helps with bugs. But I'm just going to say for $25 an acre I can apply an insecticide. If I'm going to lose $200 an acre growing wheat, I mean that's the math is pretty simple.
Farming is a well-established and entrenched system, and when farmers and companies work outside of it, they run up against another complex system known as the Federal Crop Insurance Program. Before crop insurance, farmers had little to no safety net, so during a bad year, farmers were kinda out of luck. In 1938, the US government introduced the foundation of what we now know as the Federal Crop Insurance Program, a system where a selection of high-producing crops are more or less guaranteed by the feds. The federal government pays about 60% of a farmer's total insurance premiums, and from 1995 to 2020, about 76% of insurance payouts went to producers of 4 crops: corn, soybeans, wheat, and cotton. So, US farmers mostly grow corn, soybeans, wheat, and cotton. The county that Dawson is in, Lacaparo County, doesn't have an insurance policy for yellow field peas. So when PURIS tries to convince farmers to grow the pea here, they also have to convince farmers to give up the safety net of crop insurance. Patrick Miller is in a unique position to understand this system. He sells insurance in Dawson, but he also farms in the next town over.
It's nothing to spend $500,000 before anything comes out of the ground just to plant my farm.
$500,000.
If you don't have coverage for that, if you don't have guaranteed coverage through crop insurance, you're never going to get an operating loan.
It really all comes down to how these resources are valued, and currently, yield and cash are king.
It's hard when you take a specific crop and try to attach a dollar amount to it. Yeah. If I did that, I'd be growing corn and soybeans consecutively year after year, because that would generate the most revenue per acre. So what I'm looking at a lot are the non-cash benefits that these alternative crops will bring to the farm. I think we have to look more at nutrition. We have to look more at water quality, soil health, carbon sequestration, communities in general, like the local economy. I think there's more within an agricultural community than yield.
Patrick Miller is also trying his luck at something different.
It's a learning experience.
Yeah. Honeyberries. They're like a more tart and taller blueberry. So this is what a half acre looks like. From there to there, that's a half acre.
Correct.
And this is an uninsured crop that you have.
Correct. There's no coverage on, I mean, they're not established in our county.
And so this might be a good example of a way to introduce a specialty or an additional crop onto their land to slowly do it in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, right now, this is less than 1% of, productive ground.
To establish an uninsured crop, a farmer needs 3 years of yield data to try to prove that it's a crop worth insuring. But even still, the coverage might not be approved.
I have crops on my farm that are not insured. Kernza is one of them. Buckwheat is another. I have other crops like sunflowers and spring wheat that are valued at a much lower rate than like corn and soybeans. My alfalfa is not insured and my pasture is not insured. So I have a pretty good percentage of the farm that isn't insured. I take on a considerable amount of risk by doing that, but what I'm looking for is the diversity and having that rotation that supports soil health. So instead of just focusing on the year-to-year, make it or break it, maybe safe way of looking at agriculture, definitely took a turn towards playing the long game.
And here's the M. Night Shyamalan twist. Luke does grow peas.
So after that wheat crop comes off, I'll plant 40 pounds of peas per acre, and I do that just for the nitrogen. I let all of the seed and everything, all of that protein goes back into the soil. And that's one reason we have such a nice, healthy looking corn crop.
Why don't you use a PURIS pea then for that? Because then you could...
Once I harvest the pea, I'm losing all of my protein, which is nitrogen.
Oh, right. You want to keep it in there, in the ground.
Yeah.
There are growers in Minnesota that have tried to grow peas for PURIS, but most that I was able to get a hold of had a bad experience. And online grower forums also had a sense of hesitancy and wariness. Be it directly related to business with PURIS, like complicated contracts or strict spec standards, or the systemic challenge of crop insurance, growing the PURIS pea, growing crops in general, puts a lot of responsibility on farmers. These farmers that I talked with recognize that PURIS is trying to run a business in this system, but they are too. So either they've moved on to other specialty crops or back to a corn and bean rotation.
It's a learning curve when it starts. We do have a food grade product. Making sure that we're having a soy-free product can be difficult to deliver on. So there's times that we've had producers that are frustrated with that spec. It's having the front runners or the innovators that are looking to kind of go against the trend a little bit and establish different crops, and not necessarily having that net, that safety net there from a financial side.
PURIS can be seen as a proxy for all of the companies trying to make it in this alternative protein space. Earth's resources are finite. Farmers and some food companies are getting creative, trying something to change up how humans eat. PURIS is trying something and stumbled with many farmers in our region who, as of now, won't grow for them again. Now the question is, will PURIS work to repair those relationships? Will they make contracts with growers in mind? I can't predict the future, but if growth projections of plant-based proteins are accurate, making up about 7.7% of the global protein market by 2030, PURIS is going to need a lot of peas to compete.
And it's hard, like farming and agriculture, and it's hard work. I think everyone's figuring it out, and we're trying to make new and better products that can help people say, hey, this is just good food.
In our next episode, we're looking at diet, nutrition, myths and truths of plant-based proteins. Who is eating plant-based products, and how do these foods fit into the rural landscape they're grown and processed in?